Had the opportunity a couple of days ago to sit down with Kevin Costner. And, of course, Bull Durham, JFK, The Untouchables, Field of Dreams. And he came into the New York City Man Cave. And we talked about a variety of things. But we started the interview with a bit of an awkward greeting to one another. Great to see you. Looking good.
Thank you.
We did have, I don't know if it was an awkward moment, but I wasn't sure if I was supposed to maybe give you a handshake or I was going to give you a hug or handshake hug. Do you understand what
Yeah, I understand that there's a lot of greetings out there these days, and you know, the perfect examples are on television. But I don't know. I stuck my hand out, and I got a feeling like you're a handshake guy too, and you just have to kind of go along with this this club that's ever going on.
But I deal with young athletes, you know, and they're not doing a firm handshake.
No.
So I got to do like a hug, and then they bring you in, and then pat you on the back a couple times.
It's not a good start. It's not a good start. But you know, once you get by whatever it's going to be.
We're too old, though.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is.
I don't know. Yeah. Good point. Are we too old? Jesus Christ.
I am. You're not. What sport could you play right now that you would actually feel comfortable doing?
Well, you know, I can't play basketball anymore. And the reason I say that is because I can't guard anybody because of the knees. And if you can't guard somebody, you can't say you play basketball. You can go out and shoot.
Oh, wait a minute. You just took a shot at me, though. Even when my knees were good, I didn't guard anybody.
Well, you maybe didn't guard them, but you tried to guard them. But that's how kind of I gauged it. I go, now I can just shoot around. And go, you play basketball? No, I don't, because
you shoot. That's it.
Yeah, you shoot. You don't do the other stuff. But you know, the knees have taken it away.
But if you look at when you played baseball with Bull Durham or it's Tin Cup, like which one do you look at? Because trying to convince people that you could do this or you're real is part of the battle. I think when it comes to sports, that the audience believes that you're capable. Because
you have to make that up in your mind. I mean, you either have respect for sport or not. And you know, even Olivier, if he couldn't play, he might have been the greatest actor ever. But if you can't hit a ball, you can't outact it. There's one thing in movies you can't do. And so, like, I would never do a hockey movie because I don't know how to skate. And there's so many people that think they can automatically play sports. And even a non-athlete can recognize in a second somebody who can't play. And it bothers me, it bothers you, it bothers everybody in the room. You say, man, you know, there's a motion, there's a ballet move that is so obvious, and it's the little things that even come in between swinging the bat. It's just how you move.
Did you believe Redford when he played baseball?
He can play a little bit, but he's athletic, he's coordinated. You can see it, you know, and so he had the moves.
What's the sports movie that hasn't been told yet? That I don't know if there is one that you have.
You know, I had this thought about a basketball, coach idea where, you know, he's just getting beat the hell out of the color announcer who wants his job. Everybody, the town's after him. He can't get the athletes to play, and then the owner brings in some girl that was on Time magazine because she turns companies around psychologically, and he thinks my team sucks, and she brings her in, and so it's you just have the whole town bearing down on you. And now I've got a psychologist, and I mean, I was thinking we called it basket cases, but we never wrote it. But I don't know. They're hard to do. They're like Western sports movies. People think that there's black hat, white hat, that just should be pretty easy. Thinking like sports, oh, that's a great story. But the reality is, a great story doesn't make a great movie. A great script does. And the distilling a story down to the way Shelton did, a guy ironing clothes, and the broad comes in, and really understanding that, and understanding that a guy's willing to go hit a home run in obscurity just because even though he knows it's a bull record, in a way, because it's minor league, he can't ever find himself talking about it in the bar. He elects to still room with an 18-year-old, and he goes and he hits that last home run because it means something to him. And there's this level of poetry that comes with sports inside all the vulgarity and all the insanity that is.
But you couldn't do a sequel where Crashes a manager and you and Susan.
I could if Ron wrapped his arms around it and got it to that point where he thought it was good and I thought it was good. I'll do a sequel. It hasn't been a part of my career makeup.
Yeah.
But if you can get to that second movie and not, a lot of times now in movies, you see these sequels and then the sequel comes after a movie you maybe like, and it's not very good, and then they kind of go, we really apologize for that second one. We're going to make a third one. and you just realize they're just backing that truck in, seeing how big a shovel they can get, and throwing the money at it. Now, but just think about how many times you hear, I apologize for that second one. You know what? It's like, really? So it's a pretty good business, the apology business.
Did you buy Newman in Slapshot?
He could skate. And Paul could deliver a line, and he played the elder guy, and Jimmy Pearsall's story we didn't buy him going up on the fence, and you see it. And listen, you can't always get it perfect. I mean, we made a pretty perfect movie in Field of Dreams, but Shoeless Joe throws left, and he hits left, and I knew I was going to take the bullets for that, and I said to the director, who really wrote a piece of a lifetime, I'm the one that's going to take a beating for this. Like, why didn't you stop that? You know what I mean?
So Ray Liotta is now. Did Ray know too that this is what should have been asked of him to be Shoeless Joe?
At a certain moment, I just didn't say anything. That would have just messed with him, in a real way. But the treat on that movie was working with Lancaster.
Lancaster.
Yeah, you know what I mean. This is the guy that ran across that water in that Kentuckian, and fought with Walter. I actually said, we're sitting next to each other. I said, that shot across the water? He goes, you saw that? I said, yeah. He goes, can I tell you how I did it? I go, yeah. And he said, first off, I ran to where the guy was shooting, and I told the director, I'm going to run as fast as I can. I want him to load, and when he's done loading, I want you to tell me to stop when I run. And that way I'll know where I'm going to start. And this is where I'll be hiding, and this is where I'll go. So you saw that? That's
a good imitation.
I don't know how good imitation was, but what was really maybe the best part of the imitation was, you saw that? Because he loved the details of what he did. And, and I said that fight with Mathau was amazing. That whip and that woman rolls the thing over, and it was like, we were suddenly the same animal on the Serengeti. Him and I started talking,
Yeah.
We had suddenly bridged that thing that it was only him and I could talk.
He's Kevin Costner joining us here in the Man Cave. What do people say on the streets when you're in New York?
Well, the good thing is I never know what they're going to say when it comes to a movie. And I'm kind of glad my career hasn't drilled down to a single movie. Their movies have a chance to affect people in different ways. And so, it rotates between about 10 and 12 movies that somebody will come up and say, that was my movie. That was my movie. And I think I'm kind of happiest about that.
But because you'd have to do this retrospective, it feels like, when people do interviews with you, because I'm curious about certain things that you've done, but also, what was your life like at the peak of your success?
I thought I was happening before I was happening, and after I was happening, I didn't think much about it. And now when you go, let's go find that peak.
Was it crazy?
It wasn't crazy for me because it didn't happen for me at 19 and 20. My first check came in at about 28 years old. So I didn't have my head out of a limousine going down Sunset doing cocaine on the hood. I was like anxious to do my next movie. And when people said, well, your fifth movie in, you directed, aren't you think you're going a little fast? I said, man, I've been waiting a long time.
Yeah.
I've been watching. I was a stage manager for 3 years, watching all the cameras, doing all the stuff, making $3.24 an hour, I think. And I was watching. So for them, it was like a fast jump. And for me, I had been moving that direction all the time.
Did you have acting heroes or sports heroes?
I had both. I really had both.
But did you aspire to be an athlete first?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah. Brock was somebody that
Lou Brock?
Yeah, was somebody that I really, really liked, and how he played, how he hit. And, I've seen so many, when I see all this slow motion stuff now that still makes guys in the room cry, it makes me cry if that voice comes up. Sable and all those different people that would talk. I think I saw all those games. I mean, I saw OJ play Namath in the preseason game because I wanted to see the Heisman Trophy winner play against a Super Bowl champion. And, there was only like one game a week, like on CBS. And so I have watched the games faithfully for 30, 40 years. I just do.
What is there a comparison between being an athlete and being an actor?
Well, I direct like a coach. Sometimes when I'm doing an action scene and I start talking to the guys, I can see them start doing this. Like, there's a lot of this chin boogie things. Yeah. And really, it's not that they understand. They're actually nervous. They're saying, quit talking to me. Don't talk to me. And then when I do the scene and the bombs go off or something goes off, and I think, where were you, man? Well, I go, what do you mean? You were going like this to me. You were going like this to me. Where were you? Now we got to do this all over again. A long time ago, I just brought out a chalkboard. I said, look, you got to be here when this is, okay? If I come here, are you going to come out? No, good. When you see me, that's when you're coming out. And I found that with a chalkboard, I can actually get a lot done. And
but you mess with an actor on a hot streak. There's the scene in Bull Durham. You don't mess with somebody on a hot streak. But if an actor's in the zone, do you know it and don't talk to him?
Yeah, you don't need to. You don't need to say anything unless you feel like you have this pride of authorship. It's like when I had Duvall, and I knew the lines would work for him, and I didn't feel the need to say anything unless I needed to move him somewhere, and I never hesitated with that. But some guys really know how to turn a line. They just know how to do it.
Trying to think, when you deep dive into sports, but I think we get confused that sports movies are about sports when it's all about a relationship.
Yeah,
isn't it?
They're the backdrop. They're the big thing.
Because without you and Susan Sarandon and Bull Durham, like that relationship is what it's about. It's not about baseball.
Yeah, if it's about baseball, then it just becomes a documentary, and that's okay. That's a different animal. But movies are always, the best ones are at least going to be about men and women and why they can or cannot get along, and why they, regardless of that, why they have to be together.
I still love that you have all the scenes with her, the great scenes with Sarandon and Bull Durham, and meanwhile she's fallen in love with Tim Robbins on the movie set, and you don't even know it.
No, I don't know, and I think you probably picked that up in a thing. I'm like some dodo out there,
Would you have acted differently if you knew that they were in love?
No.
That bathtub scene would have been...
No, I wouldn't, but I tell you what, when you make that leap with your co-star, you no longer have the leverage to say, if you think things are falling apart, hey, I need a better effort out of you. And they go, oh, really?
Yeah.
So you kind of lose that kind of little high ground of like, let's take care of this movie because we're going to be here every day. And like, if we really do, then we'll probably get together after the movie. You know what I mean? And then that's the way we'll know. But no, I did not know about that one, and they had a pretty good thing going for quite a while.
Kevin Costner spent some time with us a couple of days ago where we touched on a variety of things. He's been in so many great movies, a legitimate movie star. And I was able to ask him, do you know how this second part starts here? Do you guys, we start with you guys asking a question, right? So more with Kevin, and the Danettes got a chance to ask Kevin Costner questions. The Danettes would like to ask you a question. We'll get to your movie as well. We got Kevin Costner here in the Man Cave. All right, one question each. And these haven't been prior approval by me, so don't embarrass me here. Seaton, go first.
Is it more difficult for you to make a movie or write an album and record?
The album is harder. I really depend on my bandmates, and we co-write and I write, and a lot of times my songs. What it is in my band, I break all the ties. I decided what I was going to do, and it was my
same thing here.
My deal to do it, and the reality is, because of sports, I make sure the cream gets to the top, and often it's not my song. So making a movie is easier for me. I couldn't make a whole album. I don't think that would add up to anything if I had to do it by myself.
By the way, we had Dennis Quaid in a couple of weeks ago. He said you guys battled for roles in your careers.
We did. I think, we're white guys. We're about 6 feet. let's face it, let's break it down to what it really is. There's these things. I mean, when I was trying to actually get into this, and I told you at the top that I wasn't 28 till I got that first check. So who was sitting in front of me? Didn't even have it was Mel Gibson. It was Richard Gere. It was Michael Pare. It was Ken Wall. It was Sean Penn, Timothy Hutton. And I, Nicholas Gale, I was thinking, well, there's not going to be room. And I just kept on. I just kept on, and there was a moment in time I thought it will be very difficult to jump because their resumes are getting bigger, and mine's still a big goose egg, man.
Paulie, you're a question for Kev.
I want to ask you about Night Shift that you were an extra in, one of my favorite movies, but we're not going to go there because it's. If you were on a desert island, had to bring.
I'm going to tell you, you get 2 questions.
Okay.
But, it was a Night Shift you were just saying?
Weren't you an extra in Night Shift?
Yeah, I was
Kevin?
an extra. Yeah, so I don't need to answer that. The dumb thing. Come on.
All right. If you were on a desert island, and if you were on a desert island for the rest of your life and had to bring one of your own movies, and that's the only thing you could watch, what would you bring of your movies?
Might be Open Range. I didn't really understand right away, Danny, when you said, what do they say to you out there? But one of the things I get, like from real high up, Kevin, make a Western. We need another Western.
Well, that's what they want, huh?
That's what they want. That's what they want.
All right.
Were you in that bathtub? Were you in that bathtub with Sarandon? Yeah, I was. Were you in that bathtub? I said I was. Okay. He was in it.
Did you get more publicity from The Big Chill by not really being in it?
I did.
Than if you would have been the cadaver there?
And then, that was my decision to not do press. In fact, there was a big movement for me to do press. They said, Jesus, this movie's taken off. You were in that movie. This is time to capitalize. And I just felt like, no, I'm going to have my moment, and I got a feeling it'll be more interesting when I do. In fact, some guy wrote a very scathing thing of me in Boston and said, I tried to find this Kevin Costner, and it was like a 2-paragraph thing, 3, 4, and he did a time, where for 4 days, he tried to get a hold of me, and he goes, and the guy wouldn't talk to me. He's not going to be nothing. But he went after me because I wouldn't talk about the movie that I wasn't in.
Well, you're dead.
Yeah.
Like you're.
I wasn't. It's a sports
They
thing.
don't even show your face.
Look, it's a sports thing. Yeah, you don't go. I wasn't on the team. It's like when a guy's injured, it's really hard to take your World Series ring. You know you're on the team, but it's like, it's hard to take that ring. I mean, the Cowboys are having a good thing. Where do they go? I don't know. That would be a hard ring for Tony
Romo
to put on, because he's been such an important part of that franchise, and he deserves it. But him as a player, knowing that he's still a player, he's a really good player.
Yeah.
That ring won't mean as much to him because you got to play.
I want to talk about the movie. It's Hidden Figures. It's in theaters January 6th. You're Al Harrison, director of NASA's space program.
Yeah.
And you have 3 African-American women who were at NASA at the time.
Yeah.
And they're helping put John Glenn into orbit?
Yeah, what happens is, one of the charming things about it, can you say charming in a man cave?
Yeah.
I don't think you can. It feels a little weak, doesn't it? But one of the things that caught me when I started reading the script, because keep in mind, I read these scripts and no one else knows when I read Field of Dreams, no one else knew what this movie was. I read it on my couch and I thought, I got a secret. And I go Bull Durham, I got a secret. I read these certain movies and I go, I think this movie can live for a long, long time. When I started reading Hidden Figures, it dawned on me in one of the first scenes or so that the people that did the math were called computers. Long before your computers, they had that name. That's how they were referred to. So I thought that was an interesting little piece of business. But I didn't know this story, and I think probably without getting so far into the movie, we're talking about really gifted people. We're talking about the girls you wanted to sit next to in school, up and to your left so you could maybe see
Their paper.
Their paper.
Yeah.
They usually holding you off. But I guess the thing about NASA, the thing about this country, the thing about sports, and I go back to sports a lot, is that the cream's supposed to get to the top. Best player's supposed to play. There's no economic thing going on here. And in the case of Hidden Figures, these women were really smart. And one of them was so smart that when John Glenn, who we all know about because of history, says, I'm not going unless the girl says I can go. And I go, which girl? And he goes, the girl. I said, which girl? He goes, the smart girl. Not the black girl, not the cute one, not the white one, the smart one. And the idea that the cream got to the top and John Glenn would get in that capsule and go and put his life on the line for some girl who did it longhand. Those kind of things I like.
And you got, the cast is great.
Yeah.
I mean, these women are great. You got big names to be in this movie.
Yeah, Octavia did Black or White with me, and so she was always fun for me to hang out
Taraji
with.
Henson.
Yes, exactly.
Janelle Monáe. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look at you. What's next after this?
I got to make a Western.
an effing Western, Kevin. And maybe get back in the tub with Sarandon.
Were you in the tub? He said, look, I can't kiss and tell right here in New York, okay?
The movie that your kids love watching. Is there one that stands out that your kids...
Yeah, it's a mixed bag for my older set. I have, I've got 30, 29, 28, 9, 6, and 7.
The older ones.
They like Fandango. They like Perfect World.
So that's a mixed bag there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Do you ever stop by and just watch your own movie? When's the last time you did it?
No.
Accidentally?
Accidentally, yeah. And, the dog hears it before I do.
The dog hears your voice?
Yeah, they knows the voice. The dog hears it before I do. It's the truth. It's the truth.
Well, good luck with the movie.
Thank you.
It's great to have you in the man cave.
We didn't get the last two questions.
All right, McLovin, your question.
I swear, I'm not making this up. You stole my Big Chill question, but I was just going to state that Fandango is underrated. Love that movie.
Yeah.
All right.
But wait, how did you find out you weren't in Big Chill, by the way? Were you watching
The
it?
director called me, and he said, look, this happens sometimes. It's the way I'm looking at it, and it's not going to make it. But he says, I'm going to make this up to you, and I'm going to put you in a Western, Silverado. He didn't know the movie he was going to make at that time, but that's a sports guy. I'm going to make it up to you.
I like it.
I'm going to make it up to you. And it's like you go, and, so I didn't wilt like a daisy. I didn't feel bad. I felt like that was an honorable thing, a very difficult phone call. But I knew my career started with that movie, regardless of whether I appeared in it or not. And you need to kind of know what the moments are in your life, whether the world gets to see it or not. You know when the shoe drops and you think you're on your way. And I was on my way when I did that movie.
Fritzy, final question.
Movie role you didn't get that devastated you the most, and the role you most regret passing on that you did get.
I really wanted to do Schindler's List. I thought for a moment I wanted to direct it. It wasn't going to be directed at first. I was told that Steven wasn't going to direct it. I went after it. And all of a sudden, I talked to Steven. He goes, I think it needs work. I said, I think it's really perfect. He goes, well, I think it needs a little bit more. And then he ended up directing it. And, he did a really beautiful job. But I said, well, I'd still like to play Oscar Schindler. Ooh. And he said, well, I said, could I read for it? And I've never told this story. Okay, this has never been told ever. And I said, and he goes, well, I'm thinking. I said, look, I'll fly out and I'll read for you. So I got a bald cap, and I came to his apartment up in the kitchen. He had a little camera, and I tried to play Oscar Schindler for him. I auditioned for him because I wanted to be in it. I felt like it was a really important movie, and I didn't get it. Liam Neeson got it. And but I tell that story simply because, whatever actor, whatever people think your position is in the world, when you want something, you humble yourself and you go out and get it. You don't kowtow to anybody, but it's not too much of me to go put on a ball cap and say, I can play this guy. I didn't get that. So a lot of people think, wow, dumb move flying across the country, kind of humiliating, wasn't it? I don't see it that way. So that's a true story in his kitchen here in New York. And I walked out thinking, man, I'm a dumb I didn't get it. But you know what? I thought, in sports, you go and you try it and you walk on. And there are people that don't develop in high school, don't even develop in college, and they're playing in the pros.
Well, you have to get to the plate to get a hit.
Yeah.
So you went to the plate. You go to Spielberg's apartment.
Yeah.
You took your cuts.
Yeah, I wanted to direct it. I wanted to act in it. I just worked myself right out of that movie.
The movie is Hidden Figures. Kevin Costner plays Al Harrison, director of the NASA space program, in theaters January 6th. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
I appreciate it.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.